one end.
One of those things can be high.
Right, right.
Is it? Like with swinging.
I'm
Problem,
tall.
the problem
I guess it's about time, so we're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. It is Tuesday, June 13th, 2023, and this is the City of Urbana's Arts and Culture Commission. First on our agenda is a call to order and roll call. Can we do the roll call, please? No, I don't know. Can you hear me? Okay. Sarah, can you do the roll call for us, please? Oh,
I can do that.
okay, thank you.
Lori Fuller,
Present.
Mark Anthony Macon,
Present?
Sarah Buckman,
Present.
and Barbara Headland.
Present, all except for my voice.
We hope you feel better soon, Barbara. Okay, we'd also like to approve the minutes from the last meeting. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Motion to approve.
Oh, motion to approve? Yes, motion to approve.
I have the first motion.
I'll second it.
Is that for both of those meetings?
Oh,
There is
for the-
May and April as well.
Okay, let's do April 11th first. So
Motion to approve April 11th meeting minutes.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it. And for the May 9th, motion to approve, I'll make a motion to approve.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that is approved. Do we have any additions to the agenda? Anything?
No
We're
additions.
good? Okay. And public input today? We have a few presentations after that. Any other public info that's not on our, okay, so our first presentation, Andre from OTZ, The Broken Suite.
Push it. Hello. All right. Yeah. It's a huge process of like pictures and videos, and plus the final product is it's music. So I put it all together in a video, and that's going to inform you a lot of the process. And I'm here to answer questions afterwards. Does that work? Okay. Cool. The extremely loud. Am I there? Cool. Here we go. Oh, okay. I think I had to just.
think so. It sounded like it. Yeah. Thank you. Okay.
Can I talk a little bit? Okay, so I'm gonna put it down here and explain the process. So back in 2018, I was in Brazil visiting my family. I was hit by a motorcycle, and when I came back, I already had like my first record was scheduled for January. The recordings were scheduled for January, so I recorded my first album. And in the process of trying to heal, Jim Pugh, the trombone teacher at the jazz department at UIUC, he told me, "Why don't you just forget your first album? It's recorded. You release it. Just start doing something fresh, something that will help you heal." So I just decided to revisit my roots, like Brazilian music, with other types of styles that I like. There's one of the tunes here that it's not gonna play, but it's in the final report. All the tunes are there, uploaded. And it's I use techniques just like 12-tone roll. I used a lot of this tune is based actually on a Brazilian native Brazilian war chant, and I got that simple melody and flute that's based on a war chant. So I used that to I used all the elements that I could from my culture to make different music with composition, different composition techniques, and also blending a little bit with the jazz, let's say, setup. And the choice of the instruments, vibraphone, it's very percussive, more like in the Brazilian fashion. I think it adds like that percussion. And also the guitar. Brazilian culture is not very steep in piano. Brazilian music, popular Brazilian music, it's guitar. If you ever heard like bossa nova, João Gilberto, you know what I'm talking about. So that was the use of the guitar. In this tune, it's a little bit heavier because it's about my experience. So it's a heavy tune. And I also blended with different elements like rhythms like frevo, samba rock. There is a bossa nova in there, and there's other elements like Brazilian waltz. And so that's it. That's the final project. This is just like the second take. The take that is in the record is the third take. This one we kind of like, I think we're still warming up, but I wanted to show like the process. See, that's a Brazilian march that's happening right there in the middle of a blend with the jazz and rock and native Brazilian war chant. It's a huge mix. That's why I decided to call it the Broken Suite, because it had a lot of elements. I wasn't really catering for just one specific audience. I was just trying to put out a lot of elements in one music. Yeah, I'm gonna stop here. Is it okay if I stop? Can I answer questions, or what kind of questions can I answer you?
She asked, will you make this available for us to listen to later on? Or
Oh, yeah. I think that we can actually add the presentations to Municode. So we can, if you wouldn't mind sending that over, I can add that if it's okay to view this presentation.
This video? Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, I can add.
That would
yeah.
be, I think that'd be really cool for anyone who wants to look back at it, because this is really cool music.
All right. Probably gonna put the good take. It's okay.
I want to thank you for, hosting such a wonderful event, but I'm curious where your inspiration came to the idea behind the event. Where did your inspiration come from?
My inspiration? I do have a book. I was trying to look for elements that could help me to convey the message and do something different than the usual. Usually, if you talk about Brazilian music, it's really easy to go to bossa nova or to samba, which is like the most famous styles. So I started to look to the roots. There are 3 roots in Brazil, and they are European, Native, and African, right? These 3 roots I try to bring to my music, and one of the books that I was reading about native Brazilian music, I faced this whole idea of the war chant. I was like, whoa, that's really cool. Let me read about it. And the other book that I read is called Sorcery Music from Brazil. It was written back in the 1800s by Mário de Andrade, that's his name. And he went all over Brazil writing the music, what they call sorcery music. Basically, they were native Brazilian, and also they were linked to African matrix religions that came from African matrix, like Candomblé, Umbanda. So these religions. So I had access to all of this course, and was just like, I really gotta take advantage of this, and like, it's my culture. Nothing very. It wasn't like new to me. It was just like fresh, because I had that like all written on paper. So yeah, that's basically what I did. And I think it helped me to add the experimental layer to the whole project. It's kind of like as a student back then at the jazz program, I think it was really good to have like written information. So like, oh, really cool. This is really cool. I didn't know like this is how it used to be. Because nowadays it's a little bit different. If you go to Umbanda of a Candomblé ceremony, it's very different from what it was written. But it's really good to link to the roots.
It's great to see all the different influences in the album. Thanks for sharing that. And it looked like you had a really good attendance. Was it at Rose Bowl or was that the auditorium?
It was
more
the
than
new
300?
music festival at University of Wisconsin La Crosse.
Oh, okay.
It was good, and then I actually was invited to stay for 2 days and talk with the students about like the composition methods that I used, and it was fun.
The presentation said that you had a divided audience, so you had, fans of Brazilian music and fans of jazz. Did you find that any audience members came away from it saying, I've been introduced to a whole, new area of music that I never knew existed? Or that I'd never explored, rather?
A couple of people came to talk to me and said, like, I can see the jazz in it, but it's really different. It's really not trad jazz, like where I'm not playing like hard bop from the 60s. And I get it. It's okay. And it was really interesting to walk in the Rose Bowl and start, like, I could hear like people speaking Portuguese out loud and like laughing out loud. Brazilians are loud. I'll tell you, we are loud. So it was really interesting to see, like, all of a sudden I'm in the world. I'm just like entering Rose Bowl, just like I've never heard like people like speaking Portuguese here. It was really nice, and also having that rapport, like that relation, like people like there was like this group of 5 people, I want to say 5, 7 people, like on a table, like in front of the stage. And when I played a choro, like there's a tune that has kind of like a choro vibe, which is another rhythm style from Brazil. They started like freaking out, like going crazy. I was like, okay, I wasn't used to that anymore, like playing jazz. So it's cool. It was really interesting. It was a different experience.
Thank you. I'm sorry my chair just fell down for some reason.
I'll do my best here. It's good to see you with so many of your colleagues also in this recording, some of which I know. And you're teaching at Eastern Illinois University now,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Where are you hanging your hat these days?
Where am I?
Yeah, where do you live?
Oh,
Are you one of those commuting professors? And you
I am a
still live
commuter.
here?
Yeah, I live here.
Okay.
Yeah. I drive there. Yeah. Twice a week. Yeah.
Understand.
And then I teach at another university 3 times a week. So I'm busy 5 days a week, but it's an interesting commute.
Thank you.
Yeah. No problem.
I wanted to just ask, what do you think Urbana, the community of Urbana, is doing well with supporting the Brazilian culture and music, and what could it work on, or what are the strengths?
I think that most of the places that I've played Brazilian music, just like traditional Brazilian music, like my problem was actually to bring the Brazilian community to the concerts and not the Urbana community, like because they're usually there. Like people are just curious about it. They want to know, there's this vibe of let's see what's going on. Like people just go and check it out. I think that would be my best answer. Like.
Do you think that, like, when you were able to be in that space at Rose Bowl where you were hearing Portuguese and you were, seeing that there were Brazilian people there, what do you think it was something about the event being listed as something that brought those people there, or was it folks that you knew that you invited?
I advertised, and I did use some help of the Brazilian community, just like letting people know. I met people I've never seen before. I didn't even know like they lived here, and that's the case of the table that was in front of the stage. Like people I've never seen before, and I think they were brand new to the area. They were like college students. So, yeah.
Any other questions? Well, thank you so much for giving us this presentation.
Thank you.
And for
Yes.
the wonderful project. Next up, we have the Illini Swing Society. If you could introduce yourselves whenever you're ready.
I know, I'm a little scared.
Let's see. Okay, you can hear me? Is your mic on?
Yes, is my mic on? I could start introductions while you're pulling it up. I'm Michelle Morrison. I've been involved with the Illini Swing Society for years. Most recently, I was the workshop and event chair.
My name is Samuel Engblom. I have been involved with the Illini Swing Society now for, I believe, 7 years. I've been on the board for 6 years, and most recently I served as the 2022 and 2023 RSO president.
Lindy Palooza is a workshop that we planned. We planned 2 workshops this spring. This was one of them. It was kind of our big end of the year event. And part of that, we did workshop lessons during the day, and then we had a live band at night called the Gaslight Squares. That's the name of the band.
And basically through this Tier 1 grant that we received as part of the Urbana Arts Grant program, we funded the evening music, the portion that Michelle talked about, the Gaslight Squares, the band.
Yeah.
So,
So here, this is sort of a summary of who we are. That this is our purpose for promoting access to and the enjoyment of various swing dance styles within our community. So regularly throughout the year, we hold weekly lessons and dances, and then also special events, which is the part that I was in charge of, that kind of workshop and event, those kind of special events that we do. And these are some pictures of us. So Lindy Palooza. Our goal was to bring the experience of professional instruction and live music within its historical context here to our scene and to the local community. Something that we as an organization try to be very mindful of is that this art form that we love and enjoy is of, it is from the African American culture, that it came out of Harlem in the 1920s, 30s, and 40s. So it's important to have a certain respect both for the era and for the culture that it belongs to. And that's one reason why we were interested in this band in particular from St. Louis, because the historic preservation of this art form is something that, that TJ really cares about. That's the band leader there, is TJ. You know, there are a lot of eras of jazz, but this particular jazz dancing is from that era. So that's why we were interested in that band in particular, and it went really well.
So just very quickly, we want to talk a lot about the event, but we just have here a quick summary of our budget. The band fee, which was covered pretty much entirely by the grant, was around $2,000. And other than that, we had a couple other small items, but for the most part, we're able to stick to and come in underneath our budget. We did a fair bit of outreach within the community. We have a fairly established scene of dancers. We've been working to teach people and to start up our lessons again after COVID. COVID being a particularly disastrous thing for people who want to dance. It's a very vulnerable thing. There's nothing better as a vector for disease than dancing with someone for 5 minutes, saying thank you, and finding someone else to go stand near for another 5 minutes. For us, it was important. We feel like we have like a growing scene within the university, but also to promote this portion of our event to the larger community of Urbana. For our local outreach strategies, we did a lot of flyering and outreach through bulletin boards. You can see pictured here is our flyers in Lincoln Square Mall and in, I believe it's Cafe Bene, the Urbana location. We flyered at the library as well and at various coffee shops around the town between 2 weeks and 1 week before the event. For our online strategy, we have a very good engagement with our social media page. And so we've did a whole lot of social media outreach for about 1 month to 2 months beforehand. Our social media chair, Yvonne, did a great job of putting together regular advertisements, making sure that there wasn't a day that was like dead air for us. Moreover, there are a lot of dance scenes, not just here in Urbana, but also throughout the region in Bloomington, Normal, Peoria, Indianapolis, over at Purdue, dare I mention them. Because of our connections with those scenes, we were able to share our event through their pages as well and find engagement not just regionally, but outside of Urbana. So to show a little bit about our event.
The good news, it was a great success. And you know what Sam was just mentioning about working regionally, you know, we had dancers from Chicago, St. Louis, from Indiana, from Peoria, from all over, and that's one of the real values of this kind of event is meeting other dancers, getting to dance with other dancers, and experiencing this dance to live music. You know, I mentioned that kind of historical context when this kind of jazz music and dancing was being developed. It was just being played in clubs, right? It was a combination of vintage foxtrot and street dancing. So people were going to clubs and having a good time and building community. You know, when we teach weekly and regularly, and a lot of our regular events are DJ'd. So, you know, we have music files and we dance to the old music, but there's just nothing like dancing with people to live music. And it's like all of this art is happening in the room at the same time where the musicians are playing. And, you know, one thing that I really love about this dance is that you get these really unique moments because it's not a performance, it's social dancing, so it's lead follow. So everything that's happening in that moment is this dynamic interaction between two people and the music. And it really felt like that. So you can see here our instructors, they did a demo for us. Dee came in from Minneapolis and Christian came up from St. Louis. And we had a really wonderful time and the music was fantastic.
Yeah, Dee and Christian were very kind to also, as part of our event, do a beginner lesson before the dance. We had really we had pretty good engagement with the with our beginner lesson. we're really happy to bring in instructors who are just world-class, phenomenal, very knowledgeable, and also just very like versatile and respectful of the roots of the dance. So overall for our event, I believe we had right around 14 to 15 people at the beginner lesson trying out the dance for the first time. We had 45 people from our scene, local scene and around the area involved in the morning and afternoon workshop. And then for the actual event itself in the evening, we had about 85 people. Yeah.
And I'll just mention too, the beginner lesson that we do before dance like this, we call it an intro class. So it's not a long set, but it's a very accessible. If you've never danced before, if you've danced other dances, even if you've danced this dance, like bring everyone, anyone can come. Yeah, it's for everyone. It's please come learn a little and dance with us on the dance floor kind of a lesson.
Yeah. So I think that's what we have for now. We just wanted to say, like, thank you first off for having us now. Thank you for, it was great. It's been a great time working with this program. We're really happy to have received funding. We couldn't have done it without this grant. The feedback we have gotten from the event from various people, I think we had at least one or two people who came down from Chicago who were just absolutely stoked at for the live music, the ability to kind of gather people both locally and just from the region in general in one spot. And yeah, we look forward to being partnered with people within the Arts Commission in the future. Yeah, I think that's all for us. If you have any questions, we would love to chat with you.
So what do you feel is like the biggest challenge that you had for your event?
For this type of event? That is a great question. I'll start by being a little bit historical, which is I think that we're finding that as we've come back post-pandemic, there's a lot more excitement for this kind of thing. We both recruit from students and from local community. We kind of do that community member and student kind of crossover. We have lots of different people. And I do feel like, as Sam mentioned, we worked really hard to restart our scene in the last 2 years as a board. And I think there is a little bit more excitement. It was harder in past years sometimes to get people from bigger scenes like Chicago or St. Louis to want to come to the middle of the state or even Indianapolis. And having resources like this and being able to bring these kinds of names in really makes a difference. So I think it's some post-pandemic people want to do fun things and learn new stuff. I think some it's being able to have resources like this and have events that people want to come to. So that didn't quite answer, but I just say I'm excited to see that there is some momentum and excitement now more than in years past. The biggest challenge, I think, for me is just the amount of details. Can you go back to the slide with all the pictures along the bottom? There's a picture of our board, I think.
Sorry.
See that picture in the corner with our hands out? So that's a picture of our board from this year. I believe we're missing one member. But it really is a group effort. I was kind of point person for here's the project, here are the pieces, what's everyone doing. Sam was working on funding, our treasurer was working on some other funding and finances. Yvonne does PR and advertising. So I think that helps with the challenges, and also that we're a volunteer board. We have full-time student. I'm a full-time student and a full-time mother of four. Other people have full-time jobs, or one of our board members from last year lived out of town. So I think one of the challenges is that we have such a passion for this, and we're trying to do this kind of stuff on top of also our whole life. But then, when you get to the event and everyone's talking and dancing and learning, I always get really emotional. I'm like, this is why we do this. It's so worth it.
It looks like it was a lot of fun, and I love that you had opportunities for beginners to learn the dance. And but it looks like there's a lot of people that were kind of coming from all regions. I love that you reached out to different cities. I think that's a really great way to kind of promote Urbana. And yeah, are you thinking of doing something like this in the future?
I would say absolutely. We are both recently off the board officially. There we have elections in April, but I met with the workshops and the event and travel chair recently, and I believe they also have a passion for it and are planning for the next year. We do a monthly in downtown Champaign at Hamilton Walkers. So we have our weekly stuff, we have our monthly stuff, and then these are kind of those per semester. So I don't know yet what the new board is exactly planning, but absolutely we plan to do these and more.
Yeah, I think I would also say that like the sense that we had was we were excited about this event, but a lot of us have been, I mean, I'd say that Michelle and I have been on the board for the last 2 years really trying hard just to keep our heads above water and to try and get to the point where we could put on an event like this. And so the really exciting thing now about having new people in who are excited about things like this as well, which I'm confident, like I have talked with the new board people, they're all, I mean, they're a lot of them are people who came into the scene after COVID. And so they have like a fresh energy where it's like, oh, they didn't just spend 2 years trying to make everything barely work.
Yeah,
And so
it's exciting.
yeah, I'm really excited about, like, I think that there's a collective will to see, first off, like people within our scene participating in events outside of town, and there's kind of a nice little like almost kind of a chain effect of that, which is that as people from your scene go out, they kind of bring people back with them for these events. And so like I think we see like an opportunity for, like as Michelle mentioned, there's like a lot of momentum right now, and like people are really interested in dancing after being confined for so long and, you know, unable to go out and do things like this. And so there is really an opportunity for the local scene and here in Urbana to establish itself as like, oh, hey, we're pretty central to a lot of these places. People can come here on a Friday night or on a weekend and participate in something that is like world-class level dance instruction and world-class level music and dancing.
I think our evidence is that both the workshops we did this spring both sold out. As many tickets as we thought we could sell, we sold. So that's like a really good sign, I think.
I agree.
Well, good job. It looks like you put on a really successful event. Other question?
Any other questions, anyone? Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Read Across America. Welcome. If you could introduce yourselves once you're settled in there.
I am Katie Dixon-Bicker. I am the community program assistant.
There's a little button right on the front there.
Got it.
Yeah.
I am Katie Dixon-Bickers. I am the community program assistant at the Urbana Park District. I have been attending, I've been on the committee for this event as a co-chair for the last 9 years, and I've been attending 3 years prior to that with my own family.
And hello, everybody. My name is Kelsey Beckew. I'm the development manager with the Urbana Park District. I've been with the Park District for about 10 years, and but only in this role for about a year and a half. So this is a new experience for me, and thank you so much for having us today. The Arts and Culture Grant has been a huge reason that we've had continued success with this program, so we're very grateful.
I'm going to talk a little bit about our planning and promotion of this event. We start out with our monthly meetings in September with our committee, and that usually consists of the obviously Urbana Park District, the Urbana Public Library, the Champaign Public Library, CCRS, so Child Care Resource Service, and Altrusa International has a big hand in that as well. We then go to our bi-weekly meetings that start in January, and then a weekly meeting in the last 2 weeks of February leading up to our event. We promote it in many different ways. TV, we will talk on different news stations about the event as it gets closer. Social media marketing, there's on the next slide, you will see our posters that we send out to all the schools, daycares, and libraries that they are nice enough to hang up and promote for us. We use yard signs. That's a big one. You might see them pop up around here, especially around the Lincoln Square area where we hold our event. Newspaper ads, online calendars, and direct invitations. Facebook's a big thing. A lot of our vendors sharing it to their communities, and yeah.
And then you can see, as Katie mentioned, this is the poster from this year. The theme was reading is a superpower. And we do try to do those in English and Spanish as well. And I'd like to talk a little bit about the impact of the grant as it relates to the Read Across America event this year. So this year, the funds from the Arts and Culture Grant provided books and supplies for participants to take home afterward, and those funds also paid for a professional storyteller and a professional face painter. So, you know, those elements really brought in you know, some artistic components, right? So sort of the performing arts with the professional storytelling, and then the expressive nature of face painting, and it really engages the kids and helps them, you know, engage with reading and the material. So.
I had a kind of a fun experience. I was privileged enough to sit in for Dawn Blackman, who was our storyteller this year, while she did her read aloud. And she had a booth, and I did her craft for her, and it was really neat. I kind of got thrown into it, but it was basically taking fabric and stamps, and they were using the stamps to tell a story. So each stamp represented, you know, some kind of story aspect to the story, and that was really neat. When there was a lot of kids that did not know about it, grown-ups that didn't know about that, so that was really neat to do for her.
And then just a little bit about the folks who attended our event this year. We had roughly 4,500 attendees with about a near even split for youth and adults, which this is an event that attracts a lot of family units. So that, you know, that's kind of to be expected. You know, we did observe about probably 10% or so were seniors in our community. So, you know, grandparents or older caregivers coming with their, you know, grandkids or the young kids in their lives. And overall, the attendance this year really reflects the diversity in our community. So we were really excited to see that. I think that's been kind of a through line with Read, you know, throughout the years. And so we were really, really happy with the attendance we had this year, especially, you know, we'll talk about it a little bit later, but it's been a recurring theme, I think, in some of these presentations with COVID and things like that. So we were really happy.
Overall, I mean, we feel like Kelsey said it was a really well-attended, diverse event. And then our main challenge, I would say, would be we do share it with the farmers market, which, you know, we are happy to, but sometimes we aren't expecting to have as many vendors from them, which is great because, you know, of course, they've grown a lot over the years, but I guess just mapping those last minute, you know, booth changes and, you know, switching the map around and then communicating those changes while everyone's, you know, running around crazy day of event is probably one of the biggest challenges. And I would say, you know, in the future, maybe it seems to be like the last on our list is making signs, just, you know, navigation and all that kind of stuff on site. So I think that would probably be something that we would work on next year.
Especially given that there's kind of multiple points of entry at Lincoln Square. And so sometimes I think that's a challenge, kind of getting people cycled through all the way, you know, through the event. So. And basically our overall impressions or experience of this year was that this is probably the best overall Read event we've had in the last few years. Obviously, several challenges with a large indoor event like this during a pandemic. So, you know, a couple years ago we tried to do, or we did do like a drive-through, and while I think it was successful for, you know, what we had to do, you know, it didn't have the same level of engagement with our community that Read is kind of known for. And so, you know, that was a huge challenge. And then the last year's event, you know, I think we had planned for that to be outdoors, to be more COVID safe, but weather
had different ideas on that.
Weather's always a
Yes.
challenge, and so there were some last minute changes that needed to be made, which just weren't ideal. And so this year, we were really pleased that we were kind of able to execute it overall the way that we wanted to execute. So that was absolutely fantastic. And then I think we were able to bring in some new booths and vendors this year as well to read that hadn't participated previously. So that was a real bright spot for us as well.
And even though I did mention that it was a bit of a challenge sharing the space with the farmers market, it actually, you know, to the positive side of that, we kind of helped each other with both of our events. So that brought in more people who may not have known about it, maybe different age groups. So that was really neat. Yeah.
And then we'd be happy to take any questions if anybody has any questions about Read Across America. This is the esteemed members of our planning committee.
It was so great to see how many people showed up. And I think we're always looking for more kids programming. So this seems like a wonderful yearly event. And yeah, are you thinking of continuing to apply for funding next year?
I believe we did apply,
Already.
I think, and I think we were awarded. So yeah, but no, we are, hugely grateful for everything the Arts and Culture Commission does to promote the arts in Urbana, and the Park District I think has a long history of working with the Arts and Culture Commission on various art related projects. Read being one of them, but we've got some other exciting projects as well coming up for this next round. So we're excited. Yeah.
For this upcoming event, are you going to be at Lincoln Square Mall again?
Yeah, so that was one thing that we had discussed as a committee, just because scheduling conflicts of the space sometimes become such a stress for us, that we are trying to keep in mind of other places in Urbana that may be able to hold the amount of participants, have not yet come to a solution for that. But, Lincoln Square, I feel like it's so central, and they've been so kind to us. They let us have the space for free, and there's no perfect solution to that, I don't feel.
Try again. It is definitely a wonderful event. I participated in it the last year before the COVID pandemic hit, I think the week before, and there's a video on UPTV from that event.
Right.
Yeah. With so much energy and excitement. It's really you have to be in the middle of it to feel how exciting it is. It's great.
Thanks. It's pretty special. Yeah.
Any other questions? Well, thank you so much. This is a
Thank
fantastic
you.
event. We're so glad. that
Thanks. And we do have a little gift for you, that we had some bags that they gave us, little extra bags, the screen printer. So we will pass those out.
Thank you. So much. Okay, and then the last presentation before our staff report, we would like to hear about the Youth Poet Laureate now, please.
I'm just signing in
Okay. Please stand by.
like this. Is that what ain't gotta push the button.
No, you're good. The little green light's on.
Oh, okay.
Hi, everybody. It's really wonderful to see you all. My name is Rachel Storm, and I know some of you as having been the former Arts and Culture Coordinator for the city. And I want to invite Denilah to introduce herself.
Hi, my name is Denilah Nash. I'm 16, and I'm the former City of Urbana's Youth Poet Laureate. My term just ended March 24th. I'm still a Urbana High School student. I'm just going to be a junior coming into this year. I've spoken at a lot of different events this year and even before then that we're going to talk about soon. And I kind of got started with a program called the Writers of Oya, that was founded by Miss Ashanti. She's applied for a grant, so some of you might already know the name, but that's kind of where I got started, so shout out to her.
And we just want to also begin by acknowledging that this has been a project, and the Youth Poet Laureate City project has been only a year old, which means that Denilah is our inaugural and first Youth Poet Laureate for the city of Urbana. Many, many accomplishments of this past year. What we hope to do is make this more of a show and tell. So I just supported Denilah in kind of pulling together as many photos and things that we saw over the year of her activity so that you can get a glimpse if you weren't able to go out to all of her various events and things that were going on. So we're going to kind of walk you through season by season in a way. And so we'll begin with spring 2022. Some of the core events that Denilah had going on, we kicked off the inauguration with an inauguration celebration, and right before that, Denilah had been invited here to the City of Urbana building to receive a certificate of acknowledgement that she's our first ever Youth Poet Laureate and kind of be presented with that award. Then soon after was Boneyard Arts Festival, where Denilah did a meet and greet, and then was featured on Art Now, the Urbana Arts and Culture Program's longstanding mini documentary series about local artists. And fun fact, it was not your first time on Art Now.
No, no.
Because Denilah was on Art Now before.
Yeah, like twice.
Yeah, that's true.
I can't keep up. I'm so sorry, but it was around twice or something of the sort. Do I need to get closer? Or
Yeah,
do
maybe
I
a
just
little
gotta,
closer.
Like, hold it. Oh, like right here. Oh, okay. Yeah.
So the first time you were on with the Writers of Oya.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was an interview, I believe, about what we do pretty much. And they interviewed us one by one, and they also interviewed the founder of it. And then the second time was as the Poet Laureate. Yeah, the second time was as the Poet Laureate. And I was basically talking about just where I came from then to now, and then this time. So
these are some pictures to show you some of these dates that happened. So here we have Denilah being given the certificate of being the first Youth Poet Laureate for the city. Here's the inauguration celebration, and really we're very glad to have had so many commissioners out to help us in celebrating that, as well as school officials, the school principal. We had members of the community. And I think one of my favorite moments of this in particular was that we did a little thing where we invited various attendees, including our now current Poet Laureate, Janelle Davenport Pleasure, who's seated behind us. But we invited them to share, what their good wishes for Denilah were going to be over the course of the year. Like what kind of but kind of initiating words did they have for her, or well wishes as she started this off. And I was absolutely thrown by the amount of people who wanted to have the microphone at that point and just give her lots of words of wisdom and advice of how to sort of seize this year. But that was a really particularly special moment.
I still have the cards in my everything drawer at home, so don't think I just threw them away. I didn't, I promise.
Oh yeah, there were also cards where people could write words of advice if they didn't feel like taking the microphone.
Messages and things like that for our Shire folk. Do I
That's
push
right.
The
Yeah,
button?
you go ahead. This one. So this was the Poet Laureate Meet and Greet as part of Boneyard Arts Festival, and it was also concurrent with 2 art openings that were going on, also sponsored by the City Arts and Culture Program. One was the work of Carol Allison, which is behind Denial in this image, and the others was a project of Dream Academy. But that was a really fun event and a way for her to be involved with the Boneyard Arts Festival.
To see a little growth there. The other picture, it was kind of older. I was like 12 or something, 12 maybe. And then this one was more recent. I was like 15, of the sort.
And that initial photo that was used on a lot of the introductory stuff of Denila's when she was first named Youth Poet Laureate was from a photo shoot also funded by the Arts and Culture Program of the Writers of Oya.
Luminous Magazine. That was a while back, but it was definitely fun. And I did not stay quiet about not wanting this picture to continue to be up there. I'm very glad we took another photo shoot also, thanks to Miss Rachel.
We did not actually name that in the presentation, but we should probably give a shout out to Anna Longworth, who did do a whole photo shoot with Denial in downtown Urbana so that she had new headshots. Something I absolutely recommend is paid for and funded in the future as a continual thing for various poet laureates, if possible, because it's wonderful for them to walk away with new headshots and things like that as they become more and more famous writers. This is our Art Now filming, which was done just outside the city building, right there in our Art in the Park area. And then if we move on to Summer 2022 highlights, Deniala was specifically invited to participate as a guest presenter, sort of keynote presenter for the Odyssey Project's public reading that they had that summer. And then Deniala also hosted her own first ever open mic, open to the community, called Voices of Community. And then what was really fun was that soon after, Deniala was invited to audition for Stoplight, which was a new production out of Station Theater. So I'm gonna invite you to talk more about some of these things.
This was the first one that we talked about. It was the University of Illinois' Odyssey Public Reading Project. And it was really fun to just see all different people coming together, talking about poetry. And it was a really amazing project. It was just so much fun to sit and just genuinely talk and connect with different people. This was the Voices of Community open mic. This was the first one that I hosted, and I didn't want it to be specified to poetry, although that is like a specialty of mine. I invited all different people from the community. I invited friends, I invited family, I invited founded friends and family. It was really nice, and just a thank you to the Arts and Cultures Program for making that happen. And I did speak between people, considering.
Real quick, I just realized it's on this slide, and we didn't necessarily include it, but as you know, the National Youth Poet Laureate Program is sponsored by an organization called Urban Word, and they're out of New York City. So the Urbana Arts and Culture Program has a relationship with Urban Word, and Urban Word actually recognizes our city's Youth Poet Laureate Program and affords Deniala other opportunities, such as kind of virtual workshops, there's a publishing opportunity, and just sort of various things throughout the year, but also makes Deniala eligible to apply for the national title. Deniala did apply this year, was not selected, but she's also encouraged to apply every single year until she turns 18, or actually I think through the age of 18. So as long as she's eligible, having served now a full term as a Youth Poet Laureate in a sponsored city, she is now eligible for that national title, which is very exciting. But what's cool is on this image at the very bottom of the flyer is a logo that might be difficult for people to make out who are seated here, but for those of you that have it closer on your screen, that's a logo that's designed for the city of Urbana by Urban Word, and it incorporates the city's logo and incorporates Urban Word's kind of branding of the National Poet Laureate title. So it's really interesting because they basically create a whole set of city-specific marketing and support for this program.
Then this was the Stoplight production. This was about two teenage girls. They were supposed to be twins. They both had asthma, and one of them, they were kind of like twins, but the classic one twin opposite than the other. And the whole thing, it was directed by Tanya, really nice person, but director mode is not something you want to mess with when it comes to her. Like, she says, get the book out, okay? But it was really fun to do. All in all, I met tons of fun people to just work with. And while this wasn't directly connected to my title, it was something new and fun to do. And this was my very first on-stage production. I'd done a virtual play before, but nothing to the point of like on stage performing, like lights, things like that. And I think we have a YouTube link, but I'm not sure if that's something that's super accessible. But spoiler, I died. So, but
Character does actually pass
yes,
away.
Due to a asthma attack. But it was just a really fun thing to do, all in all, and just something new, something to just get under my belt as I've just been growing and learning and doing different things.
And I think what was so amazing, particularly about Stoplight, was that Denilah was, recruited to first of all audition for it, selected for a lead role. I went and saw it personally. It was a phenomenal performance, very moving, and I thought you very much stole the show. And it was really brilliant because it really was Denilah's first experience with in-person theater. So very, very exciting.
Here are some of my fall and winter highlights. Speak Cafe was just amazing. That was just a really different experience, and I was actually talking to like a lot of college students, which is intimidating considering like I'm 16 years old and you guys have like been there, done that, wore the t-shirt kind of thing. And I'm still like going through it, trying to figure stuff out, and it was just interesting to hear the more mature perspectives of everything. Not that younger voices can't have more mature perspectives, but just the fact of hearing it, not mature as in, oh, you're mature for your age, but like genuine, like aged and older people. It was really cool to hear. The Central Illinois River in Arts and Poetry, that was hosted by Will Rieger. Mm-hmm. He was the former poet, the very first poet laureate. Really intellectual man there. And it was just a really cool poem. There was a lot of different versions and interpretations of the theme that he was given. The theme was like local waterways and water, and I talked more about like Boneyard Creek, and I talked more about Crystal Lake and things like that. Other people talked about more of a spiritual and just different interpretations of water in that way. I also did That's What Teens Say at the Virginia Theater. I ended up performing for that and the actual celebration. So here are some pictures from that. This is Speak Cafe. Just a really fun time. Honestly, this is the event that was hosted at the chapel, I believe. Like I said, just a really interesting thing to be at. And then this is the That's What Teens Say. I'm actually still in contact with at least two of these people here. So it's not like you just go there and you don't like you meet people and then you go your separate ways. Like I still keep in contact with at least two people here. They were all really amazing people to talk about and just be around. And this was the celebration. This was actually Janelle's celebration that I performed at, and it was really fun to be there. I liked the location choice. It was just so interesting, especially considering the position that was she was coming into. It was just like a really opening kind of environment. So that wasn't necessarily my event, but I was just really honored that I was asked to even perform there.
And then when we get into sort of spring and summer of 2023, we're here in the most recent months. So one thing that was really excited is Daniela was featured as a featured artist of Echo, which is the Urbana High School student newspaper. She also participated alongside our poet laureate Janelle Davenport Pleasure in Lincoln's Gettysburg Address Writers Workshop, which was held at the Urbana-Champaign Independent Media Center. And most recently, and something that you can witness very, very soon and right now, is that Daniela and our poet laureate were both featured poets in the Juneteenth new mobile unit through the MTD. So the new mobile unit had a launch just past Sunday. Daniela performed at that launch. And then both the poems from Janelle Davenport Pleasure and Daniela Nash are now featured on the Illinois terminal, as well as, I think, partially in the interior of the bus as well, correct?
Yeah. Our poems are on the interior of the bus. If you ever got onto an MCD bus, you know, like the kind of block that's right behind the bus driver, that's like where we're posted. It normally has like MTD bus schedule closed for Easter Sunday or something like that. Like that's where we are.
And I believe they're having their own inaugural sort of Juneteenth block party coming up on the 19th. So that's the last event that is actually a future event that you can still attend, but it's the last thing that we're mentioned. So this is the feature of Daniela in Echo.
Yeah, this was written by an acquaintance of mine, someone that I had ended up talking to just kind of randomly. He was on a online feature in one of my classes, but he's a very intellectual person and even offered to write an article about me, and the article was very well written, very mature language, and I'm glad that he found an interest in me, so shout out to him.
Mm-hmm. And then this is from the Gettysburg Address event, and really focus on the question of what does the Gettysburg Address mean to you, and feature different poets, including Janelle Davenport Pleasure. And then if we go here, these are pictures from past Sunday, just this 2 days ago. You want to say anything about this event?
This event was actually way more fun than I thought it would be, to be honest. Like, I'm not saying that I was expecting it to be like a snooze fest or anything, but like Kona Ice was free. There was bouncy houses. Like we had bro on a grill. Like it was like it was really fun. Yes, it was really fun, and I actually learned some new dance moves while I was there. But it was just a really fun event, and it was really nice to be there. It's just an open exhibit, and it's a mobile exhibit, so people can come on. And I don't know about you, but whenever I take the MTD, so whenever I get on the bus, sometimes I don't want to just like stare at my phone. I look up, I see what's going on like around Illinois. I see what's going on, what's happening, and I just read the different things, because I know someone out there, like they either paid or they tried really hard to get it just up there. So I try to just recognize that by reading it and just acknowledging the work that someone put behind it. So for me to be one of the greats to be put up there, it was really cool, and I'm glad that I got the opportunity to do that.
I don't have a picture of the interior of the bus that we were able to find that we could show in these slides, but there are pictures floating around online that I've seen since, and I definitely encourage you to go obviously ride this unit when you see it going around, because it has a lot of historical information up and among the bus, and then the two poems as well. And then just the next page mentions the Juneteenth block party. Excuse me, it's the 16th, not the 19th. Good correction. And then there's the front windows of the Illinois terminal where the poems also appear.
Here are just some media mentions. When I looked at this presentation, I didn't know half of these were here, honestly. So I just kind of like looked around. I knew Smile Politely was here. I knew just different articles that I had to be interviewed for and things were here. But this is just a lot of attention that I'm grateful for, obviously, and just some of my more ways to get out there, and some of the pictures that were actually taken in the photo shoot that we were talking about earlier.
And some of those things that were featured, when we went looking, it was like, oh, wow, they did a write-up of this event, and we actually never saw the write-up until we went looking for it. So the Odyssey Project was a feature that was written up, and some other things that we now know live online and help tell that history as well.
So the Youth Poet Laureate experience to me has just been something really new, especially considering like I'm younger, and when kids my age, like it obviously doesn't give me something to connect with kids my age, because to my knowledge everybody isn't like walking around doing things like this, but at the same time it is a very interesting conversation starter, is something that I can say. But the title itself, it's not just a title, it's something that I can carry with me all the time and say I was the first to do this. And it just gave me a lot of interesting experiences, and it gave me like so many opportunities to meet so many different people and so many different kinds of poetry to listen to, different styles to acknowledge. And I'm really grateful for that, and I want to express my gratitude to the City of Urbana's Arts and Culture Commission program, because without you and without the grant and without the motivation from the actual people on the team, it wouldn't be possible for me to do any of this. So I just give a formal thank you and an informal thank you. Future plans, I do hope to have a book coming out later this year. I'm still putting it together, working around things for the summer and working around personal things I'm connected to. I'm currently on color guard and recently captain, so there's just a lot like happening right now. And I'm going to different camps coming up, and then also different social aspects of being a 16-year-old. So I'm working around that, and I'm also hoping that along with different social aspects of just being me, I can also have different things to still connect with the city, even if my title isn't formally on my back anymore. So thank you.
We've been saying sort of formally and informally that there is a desire to slowly build an emeritus group of people who have been poet laureates, whether youth or our adult poet laureates. And I think that that's going to continue to grow. So the hope is that the emeritus poet laureates will get together, support each other, form their own sorts of events and things that they want to do in the community with their support, their mutual support of each other. One last slide to show you yet another cool picture from our photo shoot with Anna Longworth-Singer.
Could have tagged her in this. Like when I say this art, like these angles were so crazy. I just also want to say this angle was my idea. Like I put that out there.
It was. And this is actually over the Boneyard Creek Crossing area, right in downtown Urbana. And the image on the very front was in front of Analog, and some of the other were kind of all around that area of downtown, Sip Yard, et cetera.
Yeah, I did want to do like a more local photo shoot. I didn't want to just go to somewhere like super classically pretty, to be honest, like because that's something kind of everybody expects. That's why I did it like if you go down University right here, we did some pictures down at the graffiti alleyway, and then we did here at Boneyard Creek, because it's not just like quote unquote classic beauty, it's like inner beauty as well, and some of the more intimate places of our little town of Champaign, Urbana. So questions, comments, concerns?
With all of the experiences that you've had since becoming Poet Laureate, do you feel that that's affected your poetry in any way? And if so, how?
I feel as if just the different experiences and hearing different styles of poetry has definitely had given my word a sense of maturity and just growing, because I definitely don't want to say that I'm the same person I was in 2021 or 2022, because if so, that I have not done my job at all. So I do think that it's given me a sense of maturity. It's given me a more in-depth perspective of what's happening around me and around our city, and for me to just kind of take a look at the world around me, the place that I live, because a lot of these places, like I didn't even know were available before I became Youth Poet Laureate, and then it was just like a real eye-opener to see like how diverse my community I grew up in really was, and the fact that I had to like become something associated with the city to figure it out was kind of crazy to me, but I'm really glad that I did, because I grew up here, and the fact that I didn't really know about it is kind of embarrassing, but at the same time, it did affect me personally, and it did affect my work in some of the best ways, and I'm glad that it did.
So which event had the most impact?
God, it's like choosing between my kids, man. I don't know. I couldn't say one event did more for me than another event did, just because all of them gave me a lot to take home with me. So it would be like comparing apples to oranges in a sweetness contest. You know, like it wouldn't really make too much sense just because they all had so much to offer. But at the same time, they all gave me a lot in its own different way. So to just give you one event wouldn't even be possible personally, but thank you.
Well, I think you should be really proud of all the accomplishments you've done this year. It's really great to kind of see them all collected and celebrated. You've really done a lot of really interesting work. I didn't know about the play at Station Theater. That's amazing. So I think that you've done an amazing job, and you should be really proud of all the things that you've accomplished.
Please go visit some of their shows. They're amazing. It's just a little black box theater right here by the old like Chinooks right there. Yeah, like if you know where Chinook, like old Save-A-Lot, there it is. By the old Save-A-Lot, it's just right across the street. It's a little hidden gem, but the pieces there are amazing to watch. Just go watch it for yourself. I couldn't possibly put it into words.
Congratulations to Nyla. Congratulations to Nyla, especially being our first ever Youth Poet Laureate.
Thank you.
Can I ask one more question? Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Okay, so since your term has ended, and we might possibly get another Youth Poet Laureate for this next cycle, what would you say to, high school students to convince them, you got to do this, this is great experience, you're going to learn a lot? What sort of things would you say to them?
To be honest, it depends on the person, because I wouldn't say like, oh, if you don't have a lot of free time, don't do this, because that's not really it at all. Like the city is very flexible when it comes to scheduling, because they do still understand that you're an adolescent at the end of the day. So they understand that you have schedules to work with. They understand that they have schedules to work with. So I wouldn't necessarily say don't do it if you don't have a lot of free time, but I would say don't do it unless you're serious about it. Like, don't just do it in a way to, oh, well, I get free this, or I get to do that. Like, don't do it, because it's not something like that. You are expected to represent your school. You are expected to represent your city, and most importantly, yourself. So I'm not saying take the job super seriously, because you will have some funny moments in between, and you will have some times where you're just like goofing off with different people, but don't expect that to be the primary thing that you're doing, because at the end of the day, you're still representing yourself as a person, and you're representing your city. So just make sure that when you come into this job, you have a sense of seriousness, but don't jay down on yourself. If that one interview you flubbed over your words, or don't get mad at yourself if you didn't come the most prepared, because everybody has off days. So at the end of the day, treat yourself like a human, but at the end of the day, don't give yourself too much leeway.
Thank you so much. This is fantastic.
All right. Thank you.
And finally, we have our staff report.
All right. Okay. Hello, everyone. It's just us now. I did have an absolutely... Hello?
We can hear you.
I did have a gorgeous PowerPoint, but technical difficulties, so I'm going to give this report without images. So there is kind of a little bit to get through. There's quite a bit, but I'll try to be brief and concise. Okay, so grant updates. These events are continuing to happen, and as you saw tonight, people are, getting their events finished, doing their reports, and showing up for their presentations. So, Illini Swing Society, it was good to see them. Just wrapping that up. 40 North, I do have some updates from Kelly. And I think that in the future, she might pop in for some of those updates and give us more information. But there's a couple of things I wanted to touch on. The Sky Gallery was something that 40 North has been doing, and it's basically the billboard murals that you might have been seeing around town. They're awesome. There's 8 of them, and there's 3 in Urbana. So there's 2 on University and 1 on Cunningham. And if you get a chance to see them, take a picture or something, but those are pretty cool. Second is that with 40 North and the African American Heritage Trail, they have recently got their 4th sign installed, which is really cool. But the big news is that they received the Tourism Attractions and Festivals Program grant and are going to be working to get some murals, and one of them being in Urbana, hopefully. Kelly's working on locations. And so if you're not familiar with the African American Heritage Trail, they have their points of pride. So the murals will be points also. And that's pretty much it for 40 North. Programming, I wanted to give it to you, Sarah, for Poet Laureate.
Yeah, I thought I would just do a quick rundown of some of the things that Janelle Davenport Pleasure has been up to in her Poet Laureateship. Earlier, about a month or so ago, she visited the International Prep Academy to speak to students during Black History Month. Poet Laureate Emeritus Will Rieger and Janelle led a haiku workshop at Roberson School. She will have her artwork installed at Illinois State Museum in Springfield. I think the reception is next week. In Springfield. And what was mentioned by Daniela and Rachel is that Janelle and Daniela will have their poetry at Illinois Terminal in Champaign. And this Friday, starting from 5 to 7 at Illinois Terminal, there is going to be a Juneteenth block party. With music, local musicians. I think DJ BJ Clark is going to be doing his thing, and there'll also be food trucks, and then there'll also be the unveiling of the mobile exhibit. There's poetry and other historical pieces inside the exhibit on the bus. So definitely recommend everybody come out for that. And then we are planning a couple poetry and paint nights with Janelle Davenport Pleasure. We've scheduled one for Thursday, July 27th from 6:30 to 7:30, just an hour of local poetry, and then folks that attend will be invited to paint watercolors while they hear local poets. If you're interested in performing your local poetry, you can reach out to Janelle. And that will take place at Analog. And this first one on the July 27th, that will be for adults. And then we're also planning a kids, teens, all ages poetry paint night in the fall. So TBD on that. And we would love if people would help promote and share the event. We should be posting it.
It's up.
Oh,
I shared it today.
Is the poetry and paint?
Yep.
It's up already.
It's up already.
Okay, so
I shared it today.
for anyone listening or commissioners, if you're willing to kind of help share and promote that poetry and paint night, that would be great, as well as the MTD Juneteenth block party. That's this Friday. Other than that, yeah, I think that's it.
Cool, thank you. Yeah, I think that the event at Analog is going to be really awesome, and yeah, I'm looking forward to that. All right, so moving right along, I wanted to just touch on some events that have already happened just because they were either grants or co-sponsorship events. But if you remember the teen art mural presentation that we had last time, they had their opening reception at the Urbana High School, and it was really cool. it was just really fun to see the high school students put together an opening reception with like snacks and their murals that were on display. So that was pretty cool. But the next thing was the Lake House Candlelight Serenade that Barbara was a part of also, but was put on by the Urbana Park District. I have some really cool photos that I really wanted to share, so I'm going to try to upload that presentation so you guys can all see it. But it was a gorgeous event. I know that we're going to try to do that again next year. And do you have some things you want to say about it?
I've never performed with accompaniment by frogs before. It was a lovely evening, but the sound of frogs all night long was very, very distracting.
There was music, there was frogs, but it was really amazing. I think that,
Frog beats.
yeah, it was great.
It's on, I posted a video on Facebook, so
Very romantic
it was.
and adult only, 21 up. So I think that it's great to have those adult events also. Artist of the Corridor, I might have mentioned this last month, but Juan Yen is the featured artist, and that's at the Urbana Free Library. But what's new is that on July 5th, which is a Wednesday, from 4 to 6, we're going to have an opening reception. But then at 5, Juan Yen's going to teach a paper tearing workshop. And it's kind of one of those things where you can swing by, look at the art, and then kind of work on something and take a little piece of art home with you. So it should be a good time. And that will be on that main level of the library from 4 to 6. The Fiddle and Jam weekend happened on June 3rd through 4th with live performances, workshops, and jam sessions. And that was a grant award winner for C4A. And it looked like it was really fun. I know that the Rose Bowl event was really cool. This past weekend, we had the Love Wins Crafting DIY for Pride event at the Urbana Free Library. And this was a pretty big collaborative event with the Free Library, the United Pride Center, UC Zine Library, the Idea Store, and then the Urbana Arts and Culture. And it was just that basement room in the library filled with crafts. There was button making, there was pride magnet making. People were making bejeweled masks, flags. It was just it was a blast. But hopefully we'll do something like that again in the future. The Urbana Pops Orchestra had their Happily Ever After event at the Urbana High School, and they were also grant winners. And that part of their grant money did go to that performance, but they do have other events coming up too. So that's pretty much what's happened, and some upcoming events. Of course, the Juneteenth one that you had mentioned. This weekend, there's also the opening night of The Absentee at the Station Theater. So a lot more theater coming up. I think that opening night is Thursday, June 15th. And at the Station Theater on that Saturday, right after the farmers market, there's going to be a Queer BIPOC opening weekend art market series that's starting. So just to get local art, there should be some food, but that is June 17th from 1 to 5 right before the show. And that same day, June 17th, the IMC is going to have its closing reception, Juneteenth art celebration for Marilyn Dean Cleveland's work, which I was just there today to see the work. It's absolutely gorgeous. There's paintings, there's like found objects, some clothing that kind of ties with the imagery. And if anyone gets a chance to stop by before the closing, it's just really beautiful work. So that's the 17th. And then on the 18th, there is a big Juneteenth celebration at the Lake House at Crystal Lake Park from 2 to 4. And I believe that's the Park District and Also think that Mayor Marlin's going to be there speaking. So seems like if you want some Juneteenth events to go to, they are here. So, and that's really all I have. And yeah, I think that it's a busy month already.
Do we have any new business? No new business? Okay, then. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
I motion to adjourn.
And we have a second. Okay, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
What's going on?
I couldn't teach all week.